welcome to episode 29 of the One Life Church podcast, where we talk about things from One Life Church, but ultimately things we think can relate to you and your one and only life. My name is Sarah Inman. I'm one of your co-hosts of the podcast, and rejoining us, finally, after a few weeks, unplanned away, is Brett Nicholson.
Yeah, that's right. And that makes it really terrible because it is unplanned, because the first one, it was an oversight. Like I scheduled something I shouldn't have scheduled, and I just kind of admit I couldn't be here, and that was humiliating. But the other was, then I got sick the next week, and then my stepmom got sick the following week, and I was helping her. She has pretty serious issues going on, so I was kind of navigating through that. But before you knew it, 3 weeks are gone. And so
3 episodes.
But it did encourage me. Everybody knows Sarah could do this as a solo act anyway, so she's got the goods, and he didn't need me anyway.
He looks pretty tan, don't you think?
Where you been?
Sure that you were
is that right?
sick?
Yeah,
that's right.
That's
Quote unquote sick. Yeah,
maybe some sand in your shoes there.
No, I'm very sure I was sick. I mean, in ways that you're like, oh man, I made it through almost the entire winter, did not get sick at all, and our whole family, it just traveled from person to person, and it was nasty. I would give anything to have a tan right now.
I think in Indiana we're going through our second winter right now. I think that's the official season.
That's right.
Or maybe third winter.
Yeah, something like
exactly.
that. That's right.
Especially because last week was 70, and then today is 33 or something ridiculous.
Bust out the scraper on the windshields this morning, but here we are.
And well, Brett, I'm really glad you're back, because it's always more fun with you on the podcast.
I appreciate that.
So even
more fun. I don't hear that a lot.
Definitely more fun
in reference to me. Yeah.
And for the last 3 months or so, we've been trying to find some people that are doing some amazing things, and just really embodying this idea of building a great city. And today we have someone who's doing that, and joining us on the podcast is Zac Parsons.
Well, thank you for having me. I thought you were going to say we found all the people doing great things in the city, and now that we've exhausted that list, we're
that's right.
We're bringing Zac on.
Going to the bench. Here he is. That's right. Step on up, Zac.
Bottom of that barrel.
Yeah, no, that not even remotely true. Because when I think of building a great city, and I think of the list of personalities that I know personally in my head, I absolutely have you on my at the top of the list. And what you've done.
I appreciate that. I need to introduce you to some more people in town, apparently as well. But
do you need to get out more? Is that kind of what you're saying?
There's a bunch of people doing really cool things, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been fun. We're learning about all kinds of amazing things that are going on that I'm not sure people really knew about, that are happening. And so we're excited to learn more from Zac today, and kind of some of the things about you. We talked to you. You kind of titled yourself on LinkedIn as a chaos pilot.
Oh yeah, that was a fun discovery. I read an article somewhere talking about when there's a situation where there's uncertainty, whether it's in a church, a business, a family, individually, you have to find through the fog, that true north, that point that you're going to navigate to and through. And for whatever reason, whether I cause the chaos around me, which you could argue, or find myself in some chaotic situations, that's always been a role that I've sometimes been called on to play, and really start to enjoy playing in situations. So if there's chaos around and you need a pilot to get through it, it really kind of clicked. Of like, okay, you know what? Life can be challenging and confusing and uncertain, but you know what? There is a way through this, and let's talk it through and figure it out.
Yeah.
So other people can have that title. Can we borrow it?
Oh yeah. I didn't create it.
You didn't create it, but
I discovered it.
Okay, but it's not like it's on your business card, where if I used it, because I love the title. I think it's great.
I don't have a business card, but it's on my LinkedIn profile. So that's
it is. Okay. All right. We'll let you keep it in the official way.
Yeah. In Evansville, people will be like, Brett totally copied that.
I know they will. Yeah.
But outside of this community,
okay,
that's all.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
You could be like a chaos co-pilot or something. There you go. Just throw that in there.
Chaos is my co-pilot. I got a button.
Oh my goodness.
That's right.
I'm making that.
That's good.
That's happening.
You are. You should.
And then just some of the things that I know of that you are kind of involved in, and kind of some of the things that you do. Owner of Honeymoon.
Yeah. Oh, let's get that one right too.
Yes.
Co-owner of
co-founder.
Honeymoon. Yeah. Honeymoon. Yeah. My wife Jessica and I. Let's see. So it's spring of 2018. So it's been about 2.5 years now that we've been working on that over by the University of Evansville. We've cycled through different employees and got to know them, which has been probably the most rewarding part of owning a company, and not being able to be in there 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But then just also you're serving people from all over the community, all different types of people. And then travelers to our community as well. We'll get a lot of feedback talking to folks like on a Sunday morning. They'll come in that maybe they visited for a concert or a show or something Saturday night, and just get to ask them, hey, what do you think of Evansville? How was your experience? And you learn a lot from those kinds of conversations. And it's a special thing to be a host. Yeah. And that's kind of how we look at that, is that this is our place to kind of host people in our community and people visiting our community. So it's been really, really rewarding.
And then did you guys just recently open a second location?
Yeah. Well, Old National Bank it has their corporate headquarters here in Evansville, and they wanted to bring in kind of a new energy to their lobby. They've had a deli kind of cafe in there that serves lunches Monday through Friday, and wanted to bring in a little more energy in the morning and maybe in the afternoons. And so we work together, and we have a kind of a limited drink menu that we serve over there. And we've also added a smoothie bar for the afternoons to bring in, like I said, bring in that different energy. And that's been a really cool collaboration.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's the latest and greatest.
And then there's this retro camper that sits in your driveway.
That's right. You've seen this.
Yeah, I have. And so what's going to happen with that?
Yeah. Jessica has, she has a really great creative streak and loves to design things. And, she was on a Pinterest, binge or whatever, one day and saw these coffee shops that you can put in an old camper, and said, I want to do that next. And I have learned, when she gets that certain look in her eye, to say, okay, let's go. Let's figure it out, because she's not going to put it away until she scratches that itch. So yeah, we're working on that actually.
Okay. So that's
week.
coming.
That is coming. It won't be in my driveway for much longer, probably another month or so. It'll be ready to go. And so we'll be able to take that out to do weddings and different corporate events, maybe.
Great idea. Yeah.
Take honeymoon to you.
That's great. It's a great way, great tagline for it too. And then just a few more things. So I don't know the exact story of how it started, but you're involved with TedX here in Evansville.
Yeah. Well, initially I discovered TED Talks through being a teacher. So I was teaching at Evansville Day School, and was trying to put together the curriculum and different ways to engage the students, and found out about these TED Talks, which are these videos less than 18 minutes long of somebody who has really in-depth experience in something. And it could be life, it could be some sort of academic pursuit, and use those in the class, and saw how much it engaged with the students. And then learned from there that these are actually events that communities can organize for themselves. They're called TEDx events. And wondered where our Evansville TEDx event, was. And it just kind of wondered about, somebody should get on that, And, for a few years, just kind of let that be there. And then around, I think 2013 or so was when the Gallup poll came out. I think it was Gallup that said Evansville is one of the top 10 most miserable communities in the country. And that was like a self-reported poll. Like they called people up at Evansville and said, hey, are you miserable? Yes, I am.
I happen to be. I was hoping somebody called and ask.
Right. Looking for a friend. But I guess you just wanted to take a poll question for me. But anyway, it was like something with that when that was released, and realizing that it was a self-reported poll was like, how are we ever going to not be miserable unless people kind of step up and are willing to do something about it? It's not just Evansville sucks. Evansville is miserable. It's like, I suck. I'm miserable. I'm a part of it. This is an us thing. I'm a part of this. So there were several people who had kind of also wondered about how we could make a TEDx event happen, and we all came together and explored what the rules were. And in the midst of some of that chaos, someone had nominated me to be the pilot.
All right.
I just threw that in there right now. Yeah, we're going to tie it all together.
It's your theme, buddy.
The role that was called the licensee. And so TED requires one individual to be responsible for shepherding whatever happens in the community. And it's an all volunteer thing. I wasn't paid for it. It wasn't like this was some job I got, but they just said, all right, will you be the licensee? And that led to a group of about a dozen of us putting together the first event in 2015. And now, let's see, 29. So we'll be putting our fifth 5th event on this fall.
That's terrific. And I think every year it seems like it just becomes something more like, it's coming and people are excited for it. Like you're looking forward to it, and it's not one of those things. Hopefully not. You're probably still getting a little bit of that. People are like, what is this? What is it? But you're starting to be more cultural.
Yeah, you'd be surprised maybe of folks who still are not aware of what TED is, or they confuse it with the movie with the bear and Mark Wahlberg.
I never thought about that.
We got.
Oh, you're kidding? Huh?
Makes sense.
We got some of that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good to hear that it's something that's looked forward to, and then people see it maybe first as an opportunity to experience something as an attendee, or watch the videos and they come out if they can't, attend in person. But then from that, maybe seeing somebody on stage sparks in them saying, hey, you know what? I've got an idea worth spreading. I think maybe I have a TED Talk inside of me. And so we've seen that start to happen where people who had just been attendees before are now out there, auditioning their own TED Talks every year.
Now it's lived out at USI for the last couple anyway.
Yes,
right?
The first 2 years we're down at the museum,
Okay.
the downtown museum, and then we kind of outgrew that space, and there's just a beautiful theater out at USI, the Performance Arts Center.
Right.
And we were there for 2 years, and then we have, I don't know if this has officially been announced, but we'll unofficially announce it.
That's right. It's going to start.
Break the news here. We're going to move to the University of Evansville this year. So we're going to be in the Shanklin Theater.
Okay.
So we'll be a little more centrally located, and there's a lot of great history with the Shanklin Theater. Now, we can say we've got an Academy Award winner. Who took the stage at the Shanklin Theater. So it fits about 400 and some people, maybe 450 people. So it could be a really large, the biggest TEDx Evansville event we've ever had.
And all of the speakers they're local people, is that correct?
For the most part, or have some sort of local tie. It's evolved here and there. We have had some speakers from out of that are more regional. But we do tend to like to focus on people who have some sort of tie to Evansville.
Right. Did Dan Sullivan, did he speak one year?
Oh, absolutely.
I thought Dan did.
He's been on here. He did. That's right.
He did. He did a great TED Talk about the, I think it was the power of conformity, or just not having to make a lot of decisions, especially when it comes to his attire. That was one of the things that people remembered from his talk. But so good. That's fantastic. And what he eats, all the time, he eats the same thing every day, so that when he does change it up, it's like Christmas.
That's right. That's Dan. You did it. That's
and Rob Carroll as well. In fact, both of them spoke that first year.
That's right. Yeah.
Rob's was the closer, if you will. That he was the last one to speak that first year.
I do remember that.
And the whole process of him speaking and auditioning was something that motivated our entire team. Just seeing him give his audition and get, accepted to give his talk, the group that was a part of seeing that brought that experience back and told us kind of in our leadership session when we were at a little more of a low point, oh my gosh, how are we going to pay for this thing? And they told us that story of how excited he was and how excellent his talk was. And that re-energized all of us to kind of pull through and navigate through that chaos like a pilot.
There it is. Just like a pilot. Yeah, that's right. Man.
You got a TED Talk coming from there. Right?
Maybe
you do.
There we go. We formed it right here.
and you mentioned U of E, and you're also professor out there.
Adjunct faculty. Yeah. So through opening the coffee shop and the involvement with TEDx, and also teaching at day school as well, an opportunity came up for teaching social entrepreneurship at the University of Evansville. Getting my schools mixed up here, and that's been just fantastic. I mean, so the way that we approach social entrepreneurship is taking a for-profit organization or for-profit initiative and making sure that there's some sort of mission that is being developed and articulated and focused on through that, or having a nonprofit organization or a nonprofit initiative and seeing if there's a way that you could tie in a revenue model for that, so you're not just dependent on grants and donations to fulfill that mission. And we look at different case studies from all over that sort of spectrum of social entrepreneurship, and seeing if there's a social entrepreneur inside some of our students as well. That's been really cool.
So the goal was originally set up that way, that someone at UE wanted to do that and then searched you out, or did they bring you in?
No,
and
they said, hey, you're a social entrepreneur. Do you want to teach this class?
Oh, really?
Said,
okay.
What's a social entrepreneur?
It's something like a chaos pilot.
Yeah. I mean, and so as a term, it's something that this gentleman named Bill Drayton came up with back in 1980 when I was born.
Okay.
At the beginning of the millennial generation, Brett. The very beginning,
right 1980. Not quite at the beginning, but very
82.
close to the beginning. Yeah, it's right around that.
Yeah, he came up with this idea of social entrepreneurship.
Yeah, okay.
And he also founded this organization called Ashoka. And so Ashoka is, I always say the term governing body, but that's not the right terminology. But they're kind of this organization that sort of shepherds the movement of social entrepreneurship and tries to put some sort of organizational focus around it and help people articulate what it is. But no, the little explanation that I just came up with for you guys, it was what I kind of came up with for what social entrepreneurship is. Someone told me I was one, and so I figured out I better try and define it.
Essentially helping nonprofits be
entrepreneurial,
appropriately profitable, to find funding models, and then helping profit models become more social.
Mission focused.
That's pretty cool.
Not just it's all about the bottom line. It's like, no, can we engage, with our customers and our employees, our neighbors, our markets, or whatever, with more of a purpose and more of a meaning. And that's resonated more and more. You see examples like Tom's shoes. You buy a pair of shoes and it'll give one to someone, who can't afford it. And that model just really, really resonates with a lot of people. And so it's easier to work at a place like that if you feel like the work you're doing is going towards something with meaning like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to some entrepreneurs just this morning and met with them, and you probably know this, but there is a book by Jim Collins called Built to Last, and he talks about it's a book all about a study of companies that have lasted over 50 years plus, even going back 200 years, what they're characterized by. And they said the ones that survived and were successful, they have something beyond money that's driving them. It's not just about the bottom line. It really is truly a social impact kind of thing. He discovered that just through an objective study about companies. So you're helping new companies around Evansville do that. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah. I guess for UE, it's more of almost like an academic exploration of that, so that they can just get a sense of what people are doing all over the world and how historically social entrepreneurship has been framed. But yeah, maybe more selfishly, I'm interested in seeing some of those social entrepreneurs launch their ideas here in our community and continue to grow whatever it is we're going to decide to be in the next 20 years, 50 years, that's hopefully not miserable.
That's right. Not miserable at all. Well, that brings me to the thing of, as one of the reasons we've said we want to do this podcast is because we wanted people to hear about things that are going on in the tri-state that would really encourage them. Like, you shouldn't be miserable. If you're miserable, you're not paying attention, probably, because there are a lot of really good things going on. And with that, you have a vantage point of watching people that are starting new enterprises, and you're working with students, you're working with the next generation that's kind of coming up. And can you kind of enlighten us to some of the things that maybe people don't know that are happening, or some young people have some ideas or some businesses that are just getting launched that we ought to be aware of, because we would think, hey, it's not such a miserable place.
Sure. Within our local universities, the Changemaker Challenge has been a program that the University of Evansville has really put a lot of energy into, that has been really well received. The high school version of it has something really cool to where they actually offer a full ride 4-year scholarship to a team of 3 high school students from any high school within kind of our areas, not even just within like city limits or Vanderbilt County or something like that, who come up with the best social entrepreneurship idea it's an annual event. So over the course of whatever the school year is to get to that point. And that type of incentive has really brought some great ideas to the surface. One of the students who was involved with that previously, Castle High School, named is Hannah Yaramillo, who's now a University of Evansville student. She ended up working on another project for the community called the Community. So I don't know if you guys saw this. It's now the world's largest solar powered tree. Let me see if I have that right.
Solar powered tree.
This is one of those things that works better with video. And I know we have video.
See if I can find
Google
some.
it.
Yeah.
If you look up the Communitree in Mickey's Kingdom, it's the world's tallest solar power tree. So it's got like a Wi-Fi signal, and it generates the electricity through solar panels. And it's down there at Mickey's Kingdom. And
that is okay. Yeah, I do know what you're talking about then. Okay.
So she got to work with city engineers and solar panel experts and all sorts of folks in the community to develop this thing while at the university. And one of the reasons that I know it so well is I got to work with her at the university, but she also gave a TedX Evansville talk last year. Yeah, she actually kicked off our last event talking about this whole experience and what that Changemaker Challenge did for her when she was a high school student, and the path that she was kind of on, and how lost she kind of felt, honestly, and the purpose it helped her to find completely changed her life, and it opened up new doors. And the way she tells it, you wouldn't even recognize the person you see in front of you now. If I were her, realizing I'm getting my first and third person kind of out of the way here, but she is completely different than she was in high school because of that opportunity to be a change maker.
So if you go down to Mickey's Kingdom, when you see that tree, you're looking at what'd you call it again? The world's tallest?
The world's tallest solar powered tree. No, it's not a tree. I mean, it's a tree shaped metallic thing, but it's got a Wi-Fi signal and maybe some other
a Wi-Fi signal in there and all that, and that's on the lead edge. It's pretty interesting, and that's just one thing we have in our community that probably not a lot of people know about. That,
well, and the thing that I think is great about it is we didn't settle for just a decent solar powered tree. Like we actually went for it and said, what's the tallest one in the world? Okay, got it. We're gonna go a little taller.
Right. Yeah. We gotta go taller.
That's the kind of level that I think we should maybe shoot for more with a community like ours. Like, why not?
And the great thing about that is if people just hear of something like that will inspire them to dare to
absolutely
go after their own innovative idea.
Absolutely, yeah. No, she has continued to inspire others, and now she is in sort of that veteran mentor kind of position, with the university. Yeah. She's still a student. She's an undergraduate student, but she's able to identify those people who were kind of like her and say, no, there's a spark in you. I see that. And we're gonna fan that flame, and here's a path, that you might be able to take. And it's awesome to see that developing in her and in that whole program.
Yeah.
So that's at UE. Right. USI, it's not officially a USI program, but it's been held at USI for the last 8 years. They have Startup Weekend. Mm-hmm. And so this is like this Friday through Sunday sort of crash course in developing a single entrepreneurial idea with a team. So a bunch of people on Friday night get in front of each other and pitch, hey, I want to do this. Well, hey, what about this? What about this? And let's say there's like 80 people in the crowd. They end up sort of voting with their feet around the person whose idea that they like the best. And so you'll get, a team of 3 here, a team of 6 here, a team of 10 there. And you'll work on that idea the rest of the night, all day Saturday, and then develop a pitch presentation that you'll give on Sunday night to a panel of judges and win like real prizes to continue to explore that idea. And this is the 8th year that they're doing it here in 2019. In fact, it'll be sometime in April this month. So I'm not sure when we're going to air this, if it'll have just happened or whatnot. But
yeah, today is actually April 1st. We didn't say that. So it's April Fool's Day.
Yeah, we have not told any jokes yet.
That's right.
This will air on the 3rd, so it'll air 2 days from now.
Although when I did ask you about the date, you said that would be appropriate. And
that would be a good day for me.
It's a good day for you to be on
fool.
With the startup, have there been anything that you've seen like start there and has continued on to?
Well, the one that they like to point to lately is Honeymoon. Mm-hmm. So it was not called Honeymoon in that pitch, which is part of what the reality of being a part of startup is you're always going to be pivoting and responding to the nuances of your situation. But yeah, about, I guess it was 4 years ago or so, 3.5, 4 years ago, I pitched idea for a community coffee shop, and it was called the Collide Coffee Space, and it was going to be on Main Street. And
the Collide Coffee Space.
Yeah, that was the name that I had for it. And I hadn't run any of these things by Jessica yet, so of course. But
apparently, including the name, yeah.
And we didn't even win either. We got outside of the top 3, it's just like there's first place, second place, third place, and then everyone else.
Right.
So we were in with everyone else. But the experience was super, super valuable of having this whole team say, well, what if we did this? Well, what if we located it here and we focused on this menu? And I mean, people talked about maybe we should get a trailer, maybe we should get bikes, maybe we should serve alcohol, maybe we should serve food, maybe we shouldn't. And
right.
So you get to run through all those ideas and narrow down the ones that you're going to ultimately pitch on and work through. But then beyond that becomes, the rubber hitting the road, and what are you actually going to open, and what are customers actually going to respond to? Right. And from pitching it at Startup Weekend to opening it, change locations, change names, change concepts. Right. And
is there any distinctives that came up in that space that you did survive to what you're doing now? Like just things about it that were part of the original concept?
I mean, one of the things that I think we had talked about it maybe being a nonprofit. And there's a researcher joke about, well, in coffee, there's not much profit. Right. But and this just kind of goes back to like how I'm focused on those things like a mission. And we wanted to make sure that we were in tune with our employees and their needs, and that we were kind of investing in them as much as possible. And that's something that was always core from that whole experience and has stayed true. We're making sure that our employees know that they're valued, and if they need time off or something, like they get it, like no questions asked. So that's probably the only thing that stayed the same. Everything else,
name,
everything else, it changed around.
What's interesting, everything that you've kind of talked about so far, either that you've been involved in or kind of what you're pouring towards, especially mentioning the poll that came out, as Evansville being everything that you've said is like, it's kind of pouring back into people. And that's what we are seeing. And even telling the story of the student who, made this amazing, idea, and it's now something that's being utilized in our city, and it's the world's largest of its kind. She's pouring back into more people, and that's what is going to make the change. And I mean, we can create spaces, but it's people are making the change. And
those spaces need to serve, that ultimate, goal of making sure that there are people in those spaces.
Right.
And that's one of the things that, like with Honeymoon, if you follow our social media accounts, we use the emojis of an open crescent moon on one side and then a closed crescent moon on the other, and then we'll put some other sort of emoji in the middle. And the idea is always that we're creating this space for you, the customer, the visitor, to come in and fill it with your energy and whatever you're going to bring to it.
Yeah.
Whether that's working on something or meeting with family or having a date. I've been heard that it's like one of the top places for a Tinder date in Evansville. So
really?
Little trivia there for you.
That's a good bit.
Yeah, haven't had any luck on that one. So.
I didn't know if that was a compliment or not.
Yeah, that's right. I've just take it and run and I've used it for dates with my wife before. Yeah, because
Tinder?
You're talking about honeymoon, right?
Tinder, yeah, honeymoon, not Tinder. Yeah, that's right.
Things just took a turn.
Things just took a really bad turn.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. Honeymoon's a great place to go on a date because good food and the ice cream and the environment and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we did have to kind of pivot off of the ice cream and some of our other menu items. And, we've got a big construction project, that's coming up in front of us that we have to respond to. And like I said, take it back to being a chaos pilot. There'll always be some sort of chaos to manage through. And hopefully you can see it as an opportunity to grow. And we're doing our best to look at all these situations like that as well, keeping people in mind in the forefront.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't even gotten to half the things I had listed of kind of who Zac is. But this is, I don't know, the conversation's been really fun. But did you have something you're going to say?
I did not. I wanted to make sure that you. Well, I mean, it depends. It's kind of a trick question. I did.
Is this an April Fool's joke?
But I was curious. We love to ask people why Evansville.
That was what I was going to ask.
Okay,
that was where I was going to go.
I was just wondering if it was going to come.
That's basically the second. Well, really the first question, and we just kind of happened things. But yeah, so that's one thing we've been asking people. You know, we're kind of in this area where we're close to Nashville and St. Louis and Indianapolis and Louisville, and you know, people think of trying to go to these big cities is really a great thing. But for a lot of us, we love Evansville. We love this area. And for you, Zach, why Evansville?
That's like there are three answers to that question. The first one was back in 1999. There was a girl who went to a church and said, "Hey, my church is looking for a summer intern, and you should come apply for it. It's in Evansville, Indiana." I said, "Where is that? I've never heard of it before." But she was cute, and so I applied for the internship. And
there was this girl.
It starts with a girl, yeah.
Right.
And then met another girl and got married and had kids, and we moved away from Evansville, and then got a divorce, and after the divorce, she moved back to Evansville with the kids, and so that's answer number two. Back in 2009, wanted to be near my kids, and so moved back to Evansville for that purpose. And but the second one, wasn't really like on the best circumstances, sure. And so it's not like, all right, Evansville, here I come, Right. And I love it. So I was, like I said, I was one of those people who saw Evansville as a miserable place, and I was miserable within it. And but the third answer, and kind of I think maybe what you're really asking is, I don't know of another community where you can have as many people who care about it and are willing to listen to your ideas to improve it, and have the passion and ability to move something forward. Like, I really think that the soil here for experimenting on something that could improve our city is really, really ripe. I might have mixed up my metaphors there.
Right.
Can soil be ripe? What's a better way?
Yes, it can.
Okay.
I know nothing about that. But it's,
mixing metaphors.
Yeah, that's right. Ripe or soil or whatever. Yeah.
But just how, we do have this great legacy of service, and what happened, in World War II, everything that the community did to come together to support, the troops and our country and our city, and how much we care about young people and sports. I don't know another community that's like so hardcore about, youth sports maybe as Evansville. Right. And I mean, it's accurate to say that this is a great place to raise a family. And if that is, our sort of top level identity marker, there's not too much better to have than that when it comes down to like living life. Someone sitting on their deathbed, what are the things that they're going to be thankful that they put energy into? And if you've got, a room full of, a family that you've been able to invest in and see them and invest in their community, what's better than that? So I think with that as like a really honest sort of understanding of what our community is all about, we're ready for whatever that next step looks like to create something beautiful together.
That's awesome.
And the soil is ripe.
The soil is
to do that.
Right.
Yeah,
Can we get a T-shirt or a button with
the
that?
The soil
too?
is ripe, says the Chaos Pilot. But it is true. I mean, in some ways, I love. That's one of the reasons I love being here, is because that very thing. There's this enough innovative quality about things. People are willing to say, "Hey, yeah, let's try that. Mm-hmm. Let's go for it." I think it'll end up being kind of one of our basic personas as we catch on around the nation. Is it's a great place to come and try things and innovate, and that's my dream for it anyway. It is that place that you can try to build. If you want to build the tallest solar powered tree, you can go for it here, because it's a great place to start, because people will be supportive and helpful and all that. And I think it is a part of our background and roots.
I love what Rachel and AJ said a few weeks ago. They said that they were in Nashville and they were talking to someone, and they were in, I think either she owned or was part of a coffee shop, and said like, oh, like you can actually sit in a coffee shop and like get a plug-in and be able to sit at a table for, more than 10 or 15 minutes. And they're like, Yeah, like, that's just something in Evansville that we have. We have great locations that where you can just kind of spend time being in it, and you don't have to feel like you're rushing through it. So,
and 5 years ago, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a little bit of a renaissance with that as well. And so, who knows what sort of conversations we'll be having 5 years from now about what's coming next.
Big time. And one of the things I do appreciate about you is, as a millennial-ish person.
I got the ish. I'll take it.
Yeah, I almost stopped, and then I added the ish. I was like, I got to put that in there. But as the next generation, because I know that, and you're pouring into students, and that idea and that spirit of things, of innovation, looking forward and trying to improve things, and all that is a part of the culture, and it's increasing that, and having that kind of community, and you're a leader in that. And I think that's gonna, like you said, what's gonna be like 5 years from now? I can't wait, because I think it's gonna be exponentially better. And I love it now. And I think that the things that are happening, but I think 5 years from now,
there is something unique about our size. It's like you can actually get all the people that you would need to pull something off in the same room, like physically in the same room, which to impact an entire community, which I don't know if you could actually do that in Nashville, Indianapolis, Louisville, or St. Louis. And
I found myself at times going, okay, I want us to succeed and I want us to expand, but I don't want us to break out of our size too much, because the size is right. It's that Goldilocks kind of place.
It could be that we'll be, sitting around 10 years from now saying, "Oh, don't you wish it were back like the good old days when we were so small?"
Right. Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm wanting to grow just enough to keep it, vibrant, but I don't want it to get actually big. Yeah. Because it's the exact right size.
So kind of one more question to kind of wrap up.
Sure.
If I was coming to you and I say, Zac, if you're telling someone and they say, hey, what can I do to play a role in making the city better? What would you say?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. So I'd say a lot of it, most of the work has been done, I think, if that's the question that you're asking, that you've already made that decision to believe that you can do something. So I don't want to limit what my response to that person would be. I would just probably encourage them to continue to believe that and continue to seek out the people that will help them to find it. Because I do think that they're out there, and there are plenty of people I'm sure that I don't know, that I'm blind to. But I would probably honestly just encourage them to keep that spirit of believing that they have something they can do to get involved, and that they will find the right resources for that. They will have resourcefulness, and sometimes you need that more than you need actual resources. So I'd just be encouraged that was the spirit that they had.
That's great. That's awesome. Brett, anything else before we wrap up?
I'm thinking probably I want to commend. I got to tell a little bit of a Zac story because it's
April Fools.
Yeah, that's right. No, just one final thing about Zac. A couple weeks ago, I got a text. It was on a Friday, and the shooting had happened in New Zealand, and he texted me and said, "Hey, do you want to go by? Let's go to the mosque, and just to show some solidarity." And my first reaction was I felt really bad that I wasn't the one that thought of it, and then my second reaction was absolutely that's a great idea. And I went out there, and he was very connected with people in that community, and introduced me around, and kind of pushed me outside my comfort zone as a good old Protestant preacher, and I sat during the and just was a part of that community for that, and that was the whole reason. And so we do have someone like you that cares about that and cares about bringing people together. So it's really good.
I wasn't surprised that you said yes, but I was very appreciative that you said yes. And there may have been some folks there that were very surprised and appreciative that you were there to kind of stand that way, because there still is a lot of discomfort, even in our own community with our Muslim community of, are we truly welcomed in every business, in every house, in every school, in every hospital? And for a lot of them, that experience is not as great. And so for you to kind of be there, and we had Rabbi Gary Mays was there, and Kevin Fleming was there, and we had some of our Buddhist friends, and there was like this whole sort of like interfaith group that said, hey, you know what, you're a part of our community, and we're here with you in solidarity. So I was really glad that you were there for that, and I knew you'd be up for it. So thank you.
All right, well, good. But I appreciate being given a little shove there, because it was not even in my head. I think I was working around the house or something, and didn't even think that would be a good thing to do or whatever in light of that. So,
and that might even, having that happen on Friday. I know then the next Sunday you spent the first 5 minutes of all of our campuses. We spent time just praying for the church, for that whole...
Praying for the people that were hurting over that.
Yep, absolutely.
This is, and human beings, they are of a different faith, and we talked about that yesterday. We've all got our disagreements, but it's very possible to disagree with someone even very deeply, but also love them profoundly. That's just becoming an increasing motto in my own life that I think God's challenging me on. That's the whole point.
Yeah, and being with someone, standing with someone, sometimes is just as powerful or more powerful than having to be in agreement on every single issue, and just say, you know what, today I'm going to stand with you, and I'm going to hug you, and we're going to go through this together. And that's what that day was all about. And absolutely, it was powerful.
So you will always have my appreciation and admiration for that. It was good stuff. So,
man, I feel like you guys have so many other stories.
We've got some stories. Yeah,
I'm excited. Some other time we'll have to get you back on here and share some of those.
Well, if you want to do a podcast road trip, the only thing that we would insist on is that it ends at Jack in the Box.
Okay.
That's the only thing in the road trip rider.
Zach's contribution to my life, in addition to this, loving other people, is to make sure you class up and go to Jack in the Box. And
last question as we if I'm out here, if I'm going to honeymoon, what should I try?
Okay. The waffle of the month, or actually the lunar cycle, is always probably going to be the recommendation. But if you're thirsty, our new Rami Malek macchiato is just fantastic. We use
Rami Malek macchiato.
So I'll just tell you that it's fantastic, and just go from there.
Just try it.
If I tell you what's in it, you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, this sounds terrible."
Okay.
So now you want to know what's in it?
No, maybe, but maybe that's just the interest of it.
You'll have to come honeymoon and find out.
That's right. Okay, yeah, just do the first bit of advice.
Right. Zach, thank you so much for joining us. Right. It's so amazing to be able to just have conversation and learn from you and hear some of the amazing things that you're kind of involved with.
Sarah, Brett, it was awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Brett, I'm glad you're back.
I'm very glad to be
and
back.
Tan.
Very glad. Yeah, you know it. I get a lot of that. People say that. Oh, you're so tan.
Thank you guys for joining us. And as always, you can send us an email and questions or any feedback at podcast@onelifechurch.org. And as always, share it out. Let people know that you watched and listened. Give us a rating wherever you're listening. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the One Life Church podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and subscribe. That way you'll get an alert anytime there's a new episode. If there was something that you heard that you really want other people to know, share it out on social media. You can use the hashtag #OLPodcast. To ask us a question here at the podcast, you can email us at podcast@onelifechurch.org. I'm one of your co-hosts, Sarah Inman, and I produced this episode. Our music is produced by Micah Robertson and Ben Brock.